we are talking standard form today. And we should have a lot of time today because this lesson's not super long and you don't have anything to correct today. So it should go pretty quick and you should be able to get the homework done in class, I would think. So standard form, here's what it looks like, okay? Totally different form of an equation, ax plus by equals c. The reason we use this is when we're looking for x and y intercepts. Okay, so if we're trying to figure out what an x-intercept and a y-intercept is, we use this form. So here's what I need you to think through for me, okay? This point right here, would you call that an x-intercept or a y-intercept? X, because this is your x-axis. It's where it intercepts the x-axis, right? This up here is your y-axis. So if I gave you a point like this, that would be my y-intercept, right? So think about those points. This is the point. How would you name that point?
One. Intercept.
Negative 1, 0. No, 0, negative 1.
0, negative 2.
Negative 2.
Right? So 0, negative 2 would be that point. What is this point? 3, 0.
Oh, what line? Oh,
Okay, so notice what's happening here. When your y value is 0, you get your x-intercept. When your x value is 0, you're going to get a y-intercept. Okay, so if x equals 0, you're going to get the y-intercept. If y equals 0, you're going to get the x-intercept every single time. Okay, that is what helps you figure out then. Let me just write this in. This is your y-intercept. This is your x-intercept. Okay, so we're going to be figuring out what are the x and y-intercepts for an equation. And if you look at this equation right here, this equation is standard form. Ax plus by equals c, where this is your a, this is your b, and this is your c. Okay? We don't do much with a, b, and c. What we do is we're trying to find x and y intercepts. We don't necessarily talk about them as a, b, and c a whole lot. But we are going to be figuring out what your x and y intercepts are from an equation. Okay? So let's say we have this equation right now. Now think about what we said up here. If x is 0, we will find our y-intercept. So let's plug in 0 for x. What is it doing right now? Is it flashing up there for you? Huh. My screen was flashing. So think about it this way. If I plug in 0 for my x value, 3 times 0 plus 4 times y equals 24. If I solve this, I'm finding my y-intercept, right? Because my x value is 0. So if we solve, what's 3 times 0? 0, so that goes away. So I get 4y equals 24, and I divide by 4, and I get y equals 6. That is my y-intercept, okay? I do the same thing for my x. So if I plug in that y, not right now. Wait till we're... You better run. If I plug in for my x-intercept, that means I'm plugging 0 in for what? My x or my y? My y, okay? So if I do that, 3x plus 4 times 0 equals 24 is going to give me my x-intercept. Simplify that. 4 times 0 is 0, so I get 3x equals 24. Divide by 3 on both sides then, and I get x equals 8. So when they ask you for your x-intercept and your y-intercept, your x-intercept is 8, your y-intercept is 6. Okay? Now I'm going to show you a much simpler way to do this so that you don't have to plug in a number every time. Notice what happened in both of these equations. When we plugged in 0 here and we plugged in 0 here, it just goes away, right? So essentially what we did was we said 3x equals 24, and then we said 4y equals 24. Okay, I don't need you to do this whole process every time. If you want to just set it up as two separate equations, which I recommend you do, that's fine. Just understanding that it's because we plugged in a 0 that that other stuff went away. So if you look at this next one, you have this equation. What are your two equations that you're going to solve?
For X and Y.
Mm-hmm.
-2 times 0.
Okay, but without having to plug in the zeros. You can write two equations looking at this. Your two equations will be negative 2x equals 20
And 5y.
and 5y equals 20. Does that make sense? You can do that every single time with standard form if you're looking for the x and y intercepts. So you're just going to do the x value equal to your c term and the y with its coefficient equal to the c term. Okay? So then we solve this. How do you solve this first one? Negative 2x equals 20. Divide by negative 2. So x equals negative 10. Okay? The second one, divide by 5 on both of them, and we get y equals 4. Okay? Okay, so what are my two equations going to be for this next one? This next one, we're going to graph them too. So we're not just going to solve them, we're going to graph them as well. What two equations would you write from x minus 2y equals negative 2?
No, 20, minus 20, negative 2.
Negative 2, right? So you take your x equal to this, so x equals negative 2. What's your second equation going to be?
Is it 2 or is it negative 2?
Oh, good question.
Negative 2.
What do you think?
Negative 2y.
Negative 2. It is negative 2. Then your second one is going to say negative 2y equals what? Always your c term, negative 2. Okay, so you come up with these two equations, and then you solve them both. How do you solve x equals negative 2?
First you put
It's done, right? That is our x value. You don't even have to divide because the number that you'd be dividing by is a 1, okay? So x equals negative 2. The y's, what do you have to do?
divide by negative 2.
You're going to divide by negative 2 on both sides, and you get y equals, what's negative 2 divided by negative 2? Positive 1. Okay, so here's your two intercepts. This is your x-intercept. This is your y-intercept. Okay, do you remember how to plot them?
Yeah.
Where does an x-intercept go here?
To the left.
How far? 2, right? Negative 2 means you're going to go to the left 2. 1, 2. And plot that point.
I did that one. Well, no, like another one.
Right, and here's where a lot of people get confused. Once you plot that negative 2, you don't go up 1 from the negative 2, you go up 1 on the axis. So y equals 1 would be that point right there. And then all you have to do with these is draw the line in.
What if? Yeah, oh, just freeze.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so let's do this one. What are your two equations? Negative 2x equals 12. And 3y equals 12. Okay, you solve these and graph it, and then we'll check it. All right, tell me what you got for your x-intercept. Negative 6, right. We would divide by negative 2 on both sides, so we get x equals negative 6. So that's your x-intercept. What did you get for your y-intercept? Right, divide by 3 on both sides, and y is 4. Okay, now the graphing of it. And I can't tell you enough, these are intercepts, right? It's where do we hit the x-axis, and it's where do we hit the y-axis. I oftentimes get people that try to plot this as a point. X is negative 6 and y is 4, so they tell me that it's this point right here. It is not. Please don't do that, okay? It's not a point, it's 2 points. It's It's the x-intercept and it's the y-intercept. So if my x-intercept is at -6, I'm gonna go on my x-axis, -6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that puts me here. Sorry, not that. I color-coded wrong. This puts me here. Okay? So where does y equals 4 put me? You're going to go up 4 on the y-axis, right here. Up 4. Okay? And then you draw that line in.
If we
Okay.
grab the line, we got the, we're missing point.
Mm-hmm.
We're missing point?
Yeah, because it says graph the line. Like this, you're not graphing this, you're graphing this. Well, that line is anywhere on here will get you the answer.
Okay.
So you have to put the line in. Questions on that?
No.
Okay.
That's pretty easy.
Oh, okay.
Me too, me too.
Last thing here. These ones, you're graphing horizontal and vertical lines. Do you remember when a line is horizontal and when a line is vertical?
It's horizontal when 0 and it's vertical when it's
The slope. Okay, when the slope is 0, it's horizontal. Do you know what it looks like?
this.
Like x equals 3 versus y equals 3. Do you know which one of those is horizontal?
X. What? Yeah.
X equals is the vertical line. Y equals is the horizontal.
But X
Um,
is this, right?
Here's the little, the x-axis is horizontal, but x equals is vertical. Here's why. If you think about all the points that have an x value of 3, name a point that has an x value of 3 for me.
6.
3, 0, right? Has an x value of 3. Name another point that has an x value of 3.
3,
3, 4.
3, 1. Name another one.
3, 4.
3, 4. 3, 2. Okay?
5.
All of those have an x
6.
value of 3. So if I were to plot those points, 3, 0,
63.
3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 4, if I plot all those points that have an x value of 3, my line is vertical, right? What if the y value is 3? Give me a point that has a y value of 3, Carla. I don't. Sorry. 0, 3 would have a y value of 3. Give me another point that has a y value of 3. 1, 3,
No sé.
2, 3, right? All these points. So 0, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3. All of those points that have a y value of 3 look like that. Okay, so if you ever forget that x is vertical and y equals is horizontal, plot points. Just give me a point that has an x value of 3. Give me another point that has an x value of 3. And if you keep plotting points with x values of 3, you'll see the line. Okay, it'll be done for you. So what about this? Y equals -1. What type of line is that going to be? Horizontal, right? And here's what I always tell people. If you flip a y upside down, it looks like an H, right? Horizontal. If you flip a y over, it looks kind of like an H. So y equals -1 would be everywhere that the y value is -1. That's all of these. So y equals -1 is that line, okay? So what is x equals -4? Vertical, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here. Okay. Here's the little trick. I think I've said it to you guys. I've said oivux, right? To you?
Yeah.
It's just a way for you to remember. So if a line is horizontal, it has a slope of 0, and it will be y equals as the equation. Okay? If a line is vertical, it has a slope that is undefined, and it will have an equation that is x equals. Okay, so if you can remember oivux, I know it sounds like a bad word, it's not a bad word. that is very helpful in being able to graph these and know what their slopes are and that type of thing. Okay? Any questions on that?
Yeah, but I have only one question. We like is in the tree example, it have a like problem like the line is like
Diagonal?
that.
No. If it's x equals, it will always be vertical, and if it's y equals, it will always be horizontal. The ones where it's like diagonal is when it's in one of these forms, like y equals 2x plus 4, or 3x minus 2y equals 15, like that type of thing, then sure, you'll have a slope to it. But every time it's x equals, it will always be vertical. Every time it's y equals, it will always be horizontal.
Okay.
It's a good question. Any other questions?
Hurry up, no.